Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to be announcing the $500 prize winner of my long-form GPT contest, as well as showing you 5 really strong examples of AI-assisted content live and in the wild. We're also going to look at the behind-the-scenes threads of how these blog posts were created. If you weren't following along, I developed a custom GPT. You can see it here. It's called the Long-Form Blog Cyborg. A GPT is essentially a plugin to ChatGPT that allows you to get very specific results from it. So for anyone who has attempted to create longer form content with stock GPT in the past, you've probably noticed that it's a bit of a struggle. And it requires quite a process to get ChatGPT to do what we want it to do when writing long form content. Now, figuring out a process that anyone could use to leverage ChatGPT for long-form content is something I spent a lot of time over the last year doing. It's a process that I teach in my Copywriter 2049 course. However, with the launch of GPTs, I'm actually able to encode a decent portion of that process directly into this GPT plugin. And so whether or not you know the process, whether or not you've gone through that training, this is going to allow you to get a decent chunk of that benefit. Now, there's a lot beyond what I can include in this that is very helpful if you are really serious about creating, the type of content that you can sell for $1,000 plus per blog post. But for a lot of people who are just looking for something that is easily available to help them get started. This is going to help you with that. This GPT is designed to help you combine the best of what AI can do and also what you bring to the table as a human writer. It's designed to match the human writing process instead of trying to do more of a expedited one-click process like a lot of people are trying to do, which ultimately just ends up giving you worthless spam. So if you are serious about creating the type of content that's going to get traffic, leads, and sales, and you want to leverage AI in doing so, using this GPT, following the processes I teach are designed to do that. That's the focus here. And I wanted to run this contest to encourage people to try this out for themselves. See how useful it is, as well as get some really cool examples from a few different writers, like I'm going to show you today, so you can see how writers, like myself, like my students, are using AI right now to create genuinely good work. So with that said, let's dig in. We're going to look at 4 honorable mentions and then finish up with the winner of the contest. So with that said, let's start with our first honorable mention. This post comes from Maria Catanzarite. It is titled Managing My OCD. It's not a life sentence. Maria shows us kind of how she went through the process here. It started with how to deal with OCD thoughts. The GPT suggested an outline. Now, one thing that this GPT does a lot better than a stock outline out of ChatGPT is highlighting 3 takeaways that you're going to focus the article around. So effective techniques to cope with OCD thoughts, the importance of professional guidance in managing OCD, lifestyle changes that can help in reducing symptoms. So these are kind of all real takeaways that people might want to get from an article. They're the benefits that readers are looking for. And whether you go with the ones that the GPT suggests or adjust them to different ones, thinking about this is what makes for good content. Thinking about, what are the benefits I want the reader to get? What are the takeaways? What are the outcomes? That's the focal point of good content. So let's see here. So one thing I like about Maria's example here is that, the GPT, ChatGPT, GPT-4, they're always going to look to present more of a general knowledge approach to something like this. And she, from the beginning, kind of, tells the GPT that she's wanting to incorporate a personal story. So an introduction around, her personal suffering with OCD. And so it looks to incorporate that in. Maria then asks just a question here about how to cite within a blog post. and it gives some different ideas, and goes through the rest of the post. What I mostly wanted to highlight with Maria's post here is that once she got the base content from the GPT, she did a really good job of layering in her own experiences and things that were relevant to her personal brand. So you can see here, she starts with understanding the symptoms. She kind of talks about some stats. And then she digs into, so she puts this general knowledge content, and then she puts a picture of herself and goes straight into a story about how when I worked as a TV news anchor, and a story about her own experience with OCD. So she uses this image to kind of signal this little switch from general knowledge to her own story. And she does a really good job because she starts with the thing that the reader's going to care about, which is the information, maybe some of the stuff she's trying to discuss, and then brings it home with her own story. And you can see that she does this throughout the piece, of regularly putting in some quotes, thoughts, ideas, and then as we go through, I think there was a few more places where she puts her own, she signals. I like too how she uses the image to signal that she's going to talk about herself and her own experience with that. So image, and then I notice this to myself when let's say I'm ruminating on conversation I had with a client. Come time for the gym session, I often forget about the mental rat race midway through a treadmill workout. And then she ends with, repeating some of these takeaways. And you can see here that her article got a great response. She got a few comments and likes, and people resonated with, the realness of it, her talking about her own story. Now, people do not associate AI content with being real and genuine. And yet here we see Maria leveraged AI to help her create a piece of content that people experienced as personal and authentic, because she didn't stop with just what what the AI gave her. She layered in her own point of view, her own experiences, and even some images to kind of visualize the experiences she's talking about. So awesome job, Maria. This is a great piece of content. And I really like how you layered your own experience with the general knowledge sections that the AI helped you write. So moving into the next honorable mention, we have this one. And this is from, I think this is Claire Naughton, if I'm pronouncing your last name right there. So Claire came into the GPT, and Claire kind of, instead of going the traditional route of clicking one of these buttons like right here, she just led in with her own prompt, which was to tell the GPT that her keyword is what to do in Strasbourg, 30 great ideas. She even gave it an introduction. Love that. I mean, any place that you want to add custom info that you already know what you want to say, that's great. And really, you'll see as we go through these, the essence of getting what you want out of the GPT is to tell it what you want. So either tell it right off the bat, or if it comes back and gives you something that you don't want, to explain to it what you want to see instead, and you're going to get much more relevant content. So she starts here. It starts to give her a bit of an outline. She says, stop. Love it. Let's see. Okay. Repeat the assignment, but with closer attention. Okay. So it's now, so she's wanting to take a little bit more of a section by section approach, which I think for a listicle makes a lot of sense. So she's basically just trying to get it to write the individual pieces for each section. Let's see here. Please repeat the assignment, but with closer attention to providing little details that a reader would notice and absorb as a more personalized reading experience. At one point, the magnificent neo-Gothic structure was the tallest cathedral. Visit the interior, ascend the observation deck, other churches of interest. So again, she's doing a great job of telling it exactly what she wants. How many stairs does it take to reach the top of the Strasbourg Cathedral? Can you include a couple sentences about what to expect on the inside of the church? There's the rose window, which is a gorgeous piece of stained glass. So I'm assuming here that Claire has personal experience with some of these locations, and she's bringing that experience and point of view into what she's requesting from the GPT. Which again, this is exactly what you want to do. You want to be behind the wheel, driving what you're getting out of the GPT. Now, in some instances, you may find if you know exactly what you want to say, that it's quicker to just write it than to try to finesse it out of the GPT. But if you don't know, or if it's more, you kind of have a bulleted list of stuff, but you know each bullet needs to be expanded into like several sentences or paragraphs, that's where the GPT can do this much quicker than you might do it yourself. So she kind of goes through here and takes this piece by piece. Let's see. Have a tea party at Christian. Please review the company about page to summarize why it should be on people's list to visit if they appreciate this. And then she explains in as a follow-up that what the publication is and what readers expect from it. Love that. Again, just continuously layering in more information to get better outputs. And this is what we kind of see in the end, is this very long form, very experience driven, as well as very SEO focused piece. These are a lot of it's kind of layered in questions that are, these are questions people are searching for. And I would imagine this article is going to rank for a decent amount of search terms. She incorporates, images in here, photos as well. She kind of has location and then individual, places within that location, it looks like. And this is a very well structured SEO article. And I like how she has I'm guessing some of these may be her own photos. Some of them just, they may be other people's personal photos that have been published. But she's layering in, the images with the places. This is great. This is a real solid article. I think in the event that someone had visited all these places, if this was a travel, I don't know if Claire is a travel blogger, but if she is, the ideal version of this article would be if you had the same person visiting all these locations and showing pictures of themselves at each one, talking about their firsthand experience with it. Possibly, one thing that she could do regardless of if she's visited these places is she could go look for kind of public reviews about some of the places. So it's imagine here with visit the botanical gardens. You have this little thing, and then you have a little quote on maybe every other one of these. You have a quote from someone talking about their experience. Maybe every other one you have a little image of the Google reviews for that place, or a review from some location. Something that's layering in some social proof, some stuff about real people's experience with these things to go along with the description of them. That could make this piece, even better. But overall, this is a great piece. So great job, Claire. Real strong article, and you did a really good job of getting real specific about what you wanted from the GPT. Okay, this next article comes from Joshua Ogunjiafor, The Key to B2B Blog Conversions, Clarity, and Empathy. This is a really, really well done article. It's kind of a little bit of a conceptual take on maybe a less conceptual topic. So he's basically taking something that we don't really necessarily associate with conceptual discussion, B2B blog conversions, and focusing on clarity and empathy and how these two things drive conversions. We can see here with how he approached the GPT that he's coming from a place of having written several posts on LinkedIn with some of this content, and he's wanting to structure this all into a blog post. So that's what he does. He gets some suggestions here on how to structure the content, which I actually think, this is kind of funny, I think the suggestions here would have made for a slightly more powerful article of, discussion, the first third being kind of conceptual discussion, the middle third being examples, and then the last third being kind of practical steps, but kind of focused on one thing, like how to create clear and empathetic content. And he does aspects of this, which we'll see. So we have an intro. He starts by discussing the power of clarity in writing, balancing clarity and complexity. Put some bullets here with some kind of more practical tips. The role of empathy in connecting with your audience. Talks about articulating your audience's problems as kind of a clear manifestation of how to incorporate empathy into content. He gives some examples from pieces that he wrote, why he made the choices that he did. A few different here. I like the use of examples here. There's some really good examples, and then at the end, he ends with practical tips for articulating your audience's problems effectively. There's a lot of really good core content here, especially here. Like you see, here's where he starts to use the action verbs. So use words your audience would use, get granular with detailed examples of actual pain points, make logical connections, stuff like that. So, and when you actually get into the prose, the line-to-line prose, this is one of the best submissions I got. Joshua is Josh, if you're watching this, you're a very talented writer, and you definitely have you have a great ability to express your thoughts in written content. The actual prose, the word-to-word prose here is very fluid, very descriptive. This article was definitely in the running to win the contest. The only reason I didn't have it beat out the winner was just because the subheaders and the dual focus on both clarity and empathy kind of diluted, for me, it diluted the power of the content. When we talk about the key to B2B blog conversions, to me, that denotes that's a very powerful promise that to me really needed to be matched with examples that highlighted the outcomes people want, connected to, hey, when we insert this, when we change this is the outcomes we get. Whereas this kind of hung out a little too conceptually for me. The examples, I love that you use the examples and how you used them. I just felt like they were, they could have benefited from some data connected. When we talk about this promise of conversions, we needed some level of data in this piece to give it that clear, powerful punch. And we didn't quite get that. But I would love to read more of your stuff. This was a great piece. And in terms of playing with the AI, I can see some different places where I think the AI helped make things a little more practical takeaway. I think for the most part, Joshua was kind of layering over what he wanted to do with the GPT, and I actually think the GPT could have provided a little more help with the structure if you had allowed it to. But this is a strong piece. All right, so moving into the next example, this is the final honorable mention runner-up. This one comes from Vanja Vukas, and it is how to do a unilateral lat pull down, fix strength and muscle imbalances. This is a SEO article to a T. You can see like this thing is structured like crazy, multiple layers, and it's designed to hit a lot of search terms in one article. In terms of what I want to highlight here, one, this is just a strong article. It's a good article. It's a good example of an article designed to rank for multiple keywords at once. Vanja wasn't able to share the thread. There were some issues with the thread sharing, so he copy pasted it into this post. You can see here that he kind of brought his own structure to the table for this post. For each of the steps, add a unique pro tip and a maximum of 2 sentences, which will help the reader execute the step with ease. The GPT then does that, and we can see, let's see if we can find that here. Pro tip, okay, so yeah, concentrate on the sensation of the muscle lengthening. Visualize your lat muscles contracting as you pull down. That's pretty cool. I've seen this on some other stuff like this on other sites as well, and it kind of helps, kind of adds a little nuance like you might get from a trainer, when you're kind of trying to create that mind-muscle connection when learning a new exercise. So love that. Again, this is like the type of thing that AI would not produce on its own without you requesting it. And since Vanja knows what he's looking to do, he was able to get it to create this for him, which is really cool. And then you can see here too, he's added what I'm assuming are, personally shot images. I'm not sure if this is Vanja or, someone else, if this came from the client. But you can see as you go through, not only do we have some cool graphs in here that are added, but there's images throughout the whole post that really take it to that next level. When we talk about a post that you could sell for $1,000 plus to a company, this is probably it. Now, it depends on the company. Not everyone is making enough through their content marketing to be able to pay for that, that rate. But, we're getting a lot of mileage out of the ChatGPT here. This is, this content is really well suited to, wrong. I think that's the wrong one. This content is really well suited to taking advantage of AI because this is general knowledge stuff. And yeah, we can see as we look through that he's pulling a lot of this straight from the GPT. So, and each of these subheaders here, these are all like questions that someone might ask in search. So that's why it's a little more subheader heavy than you might find in other content, and that's okay. For this type of content, that's probably the right choice when we're looking to rank. But we got practical steps for each piece. I like too how he goes advanced later in the article. So like he starts with basically giving people what they're looking for as soon as possible. So the basic movement of a unilateral lat pull down. So boom, 1, 2, 3, done. Then we talk about the next question someone might care about, which is it better for me to do this or the more traditional lat pull down? And so he basically shows the differences, talks about why you might want to do that one. There's a whole little graph here that goes with it. This is all these are all places where he's doing a phenomenal job of thinking about what does the reader, the searcher, the person looking up this term in search, what are they thinking about? What do they care about? And how do we give that to them in this article? That's something, this is why this was runner up and why the previous 3 articles, I would say this article from Maria is kind of a personal branding article. It's a little bit of a takeaway article of other people who want to manage OCD could find this helpful, but ultimately there's a lot that's about kind of showing her journey, showing a side of herself. It's on LinkedIn. It can help kind of brand herself. I would say the same with this one from Joshua. This is kind of about, highlighting his expertise in terms of B2B content. This one from Claire is very focused on the reader. It's very focused on what the reader would be looking for. But I think it could be focused. It could go one step further. It's focused on search. It's focused on the search intent. But some of the extra things that a searcher might be looking for aren't always there. Like the content itself is really good, but there was a little more we could have added to the content. Whereas this one from Vanja kind of does both. It thinks about what the reader would look for, and then it supplements the written content with additional stuff that delivers on that user intent. So awesome job, Vanja. This is great work. And then finally, we have the winner here. This is from Jason Resnick. And this is a post that he did on how to clean your email list easily. It's interesting to me that I think out of all the submissions I got, I would say most of the submissions were from writers, and this is from Jason. And I don't know if Jason considers himself a writer or not, but I know that like this is Jason's blog. This is his business blog where he sells his service packages. Jason is an expert in helping people leverage ConvertKit for their businesses. So he does email marketing. He does a lot of technical email setup, automation setup. He consults with people. He has, I believe he has a course for people who want to do it themselves. And so this is for his blog. And you can really see his understanding of the intent with what he wanted to do with this article is very apparent in how good this article is. Both in terms of the finished piece and when we look with how he interacted with GPT, this is the one I'm most excited to show you because he does so many things right here. So first of all, he wants to rank for clean your email list. That's the topic. That's the keyword. We get this, outline here, which with, key reasons why cleaning your email list is crucial, step-by-step guide to effectively clean it, best practices for maintaining a healthy email list that maybe you don't have to clean as regularly. And then immediately he wants to add a section that talks about different marketing strategies and how those marketing strategies lead to needing to clean your list. And we see here, once we get through the intro, we have this section on why cleaning your email list is essential. So immediately kind of talking about what's the motive, what are the benefits, what's the incentive, why do you need to care about this? And then he goes into this, the section that he added, which is a point of view section. So this is something that he's seen as an expert in the space, that a lot of the things that people do for the purpose of building their email list, which are good things, which are things you want to do, using referral platforms, doing online summits and webinars where you get high volumes of newsletters, but they're not necessarily all as personally engaged with your brand, borrowed audiences, paid ads, giveaways, basically stuff, he's highlighting things that he's seen that these are good things to do. These are things that most marketing experts would recommend doing. They're probably beneficial for your business, but they come with additional problems, namely, your email list gets cluttered with lower engaged, subscribers. And that's why you need to regularly clean your list, because otherwise you're going to get you're going to hurt your deliverability, things like that, the stuff that he talks about in this piece. So this is the type of thing. Now, I think this might have been able to be structured. I probably would rename this headline to make it a little more, to highlight what he's doing with it. So maybe something like why great marketing strategies hurt email deliverability, or why making the right choice for your marketing. I don't know, something that kind of contrasts that, like, you can do things right and it still results in you needing to clean your list. So impact of marketing, it's kind of a passive subheader. So I would change that. And I think it would help position this whole section a little bit better. But you can see why he's putting that there. And again, this is a point of view piece. This is a thing that GPT is never going to put in their outline. when other people are trying to rank for this term. But because Jason understands the space and his readers, he's able to really add an impactful section here. And then signs your email list needs cleaning. So he's basically now qualifying, this, like, okay, if you've done any of these, how do you know if your list does need to be cleaned? And this is, when we see lists like this, that's where ChatGPT can really supply some good stuff. So, so he asked it to add that section. Let's see. He then says he then specifies what he wants for the call to action. Love that. Tells it what he likes about what it's giving him. Let's see. So for the why cleaning your list is essential, we can see here enhances. Yeah, so he pulled a lot of this straight in, and as an expert, he reviewed this and thought, this adds up. Maybe you made a few tweaks, but overall, for the most part, he pulled this directly into his piece. I would imagine the same for signs. Okay, I like this too. He says, this is good, but I think bringing in some personal experience and stories will help. I had a client that had over 500,000 subs, but they felt that the revenue didn't match up. The open rates were hovering at 40%, which aligns with the result of a lack of revenue. Let's see if we get that example in here. Okay, we do. So to launch a promotion. So it actually kind of creates a little story. Imagine, unless Jason added this himself, I guess we can see that. Picture this: a client with an impressive email list launches, results fall flat. So okay, this is cool. Jason used that idea to tell a little bit more impactful of a story. He spread it out, made it a little better formatted, added in some more details, but that opening with that gave him that kind of idea to open with the story. This scenario perfectly illustrates why maintaining a list is so vital. Even though this list was large, a good portion were not clicking and engaging. So again, this is the stuff that takes content from, GPT is going to give you this by itself. And we've seen that. I saw this in a lot of submissions is, a whole section would just be this. And nobody wants to read just a bullet list, section after section after section. But when we open with like a story, when we open with like a real example, and then it goes into like the details that we need, that's how you create engaging content. So, and I love that this was the result of this interplay between Jason and the GPT, because that's where you get, the good stuff, where he requests this example in, and then it gives him a version of it, but it's not quite as, engaging as it could be. And he puts his writing hat on and makes it better. Then we come down here, we got, let's see. Okay, those are the strategies. And then, so this is the cool thing too, is he gets down to this step-by-step section. And you can see at each stage, and I'll include these links in the video here. But you can see that at each stage, he's requesting very specific things. He's giving specific examples, and that's what ultimately is the reason Jason won here, is because this is a piece of content that heavily leveraged AI for the common knowledge sections while being jam-packed with personal experience and real-world examples. Pulling from his point of view, his experiences. This is how you create quality content. And I know from chatting with Jason, via DM that getting content out like this published has been a struggle for him, prior to AI, because he's not a writer, or at least that's not his main thing. He's not someone who, wants to just sit down and bust out 4,000 words. But now AI is empowering him to share his human expertise and incorporate it into really phenomenal content. So one thing here that I want to show is when he gets to this step-by-step section, it's trying to push this into one section, and he realizes, okay, I need to, like, this needs to be way more in depth. Now, if it was me, and I'm actually learning something here. If this was me, what I would have probably done is just written most of it myself. I would have broken it out into the different steps and just kind of written each step myself. What he does is he asks it to, make this a lot more of its own outline. And he actually gets that. Like, the GPT creates an entirely new outline for like this section. So like this is almost a whole article outline by itself with bullet points. And then they go through and write it. And let's see. He goes through and has it write some of these pieces. And then he comes in and does a lot of the work himself. So, he also incorporates some videos he's made, some multimedia that touches into other things he's done, which again is what makes content even better. You see a lot of this in my own content. Either I will incorporate YouTube videos I've done, or sometimes I will create YouTube videos specifically to fit into content that I've published. So he's got videos for the first two, talks about this, each step. Step 5, he's got another video, automating it, ongoing maintenance, and then tools and services, checklist. You can see these last two sections. These are like a little more of like just pulled straight from GPT. But the thing is, like, at this point, you're kind of giving some additional details at the end. You've already made your impression on the reader at this point in the article. So at this point, if you have a section or two that's a little lower effort, that's often fine. Maybe you don't need anything more to be said. This is just kind of some additional nice information to have. Sometimes you want to think about, is it worth including? Sometimes additional info is distracting. But if it fits with the promise of the article, then great. And then at the end here, recaps it and actually includes, his call to action, one thing that I thought was really cool is this was actually delivered by the GPT. You can see, he asked for some adjustments to the wording, and then, let's see. Good. Let's move on. Great. Let's conclude the blog post. And the GPT actually suggests where to highlight his next steps, his call to action for his YouTube channel and his newsletter. And then he comes in and requests some better language, because it's using like delve deeper. What was the other thing he mentioned? Embark, comprehensive range. It's not really how people talk. And so he asked it to rewrite it in a way people talk. Don't forget to check out more tips and tricks. Swing by the YouTube channel for cool tutorials and insights. Doesn't quite on the nose, but that's a lot more truer to how people speak. So anyway, Jason, phenomenal job. You absolutely showed off what a merge of AI and human writing, what's possible. And I love that, like, the context here is you being a subject matter expert and getting to publish this blog post that's probably going to rank in search and give you some meaningful traffic to your business, relevant traffic, via a process that, was hard to do before, was something that, you may have struggled to get a lengthy piece like this published before AI. And now with, the help of GPT-4 and even with this long form blog cyborg, you're able to get this piece published. Super cool. Great piece. Congrats on the win. Congrats on everyone who was featured here. Really great content. I was really impressed with, some of the pieces that were sent in. Everyone featured here did a phenomenal job. And I hope you found this helpful. And you can get the links to the threads and the published content in the description. And I will see you guys in the next video.